What's going on, everybody? JT here. We've got David. This is episode 54 of The Next Block. Unfortunately, C. Will couldn't be with us, but we've got our great friends Ross and Agash over from RAND Gallery, Zest Capital, and NFT Explorer. And we're super excited to bring this show to you. So without further ado, how is everybody doing?
Doing great.
Doing good, doing good. Excited to be back on the show. I think it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those tuning in late, or, let me rephrase that. We are tuning in late. Sorry about that. For those tuning in right now, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, leave us a question for our guests. But let's jump right into it. I know our guests are or have been at NFT NYC, and we'd love to get a recap on that and then dive a little deeper into what they're building over at RAND Gallery and everywhere else. So, Ross, I'll let you take it from here. How you doing, by the way? And then how is NFT NYC?
Yeah, thank you. All good. Yeah, all good. Thank you very much. End of the day here, so more than happy to join you. And I'll echo what Gash said. Thanks for having us back. It's a real honor and a pleasure. New York. Well, I'm glad you asked today and not last week. Had a week to recover. Look, it was phenomenal. It went exceeded my expectations certainly. And I remember when Agash and I were initially discussing this back in December around what we could do and the possibilities, and then we were like, well, wouldn't it be great if we could expand from this little base that we are, which is RAND Gallery, and invite Pera along, and perhaps Algorand Foundation would like to join too, because really we all want the same thing. Like, everyone in the ecosystem wants the same thing, and at the very basic level, we want more wallets activated, right? Because we want more wallets activated, then you've got access to them all, and you can go party in any shop that you want. So for me, it made sense to do an activation where, look, the Algorand Foundation and Pera all want wallets being created, and then at some point, perhaps, they might start looking at NFTs. And Pera's always said, look, NFTs is a great gateway into blockchain, and so that's why it made sense for us to all come together. And then obviously, as things progressed, we came up with this generative collection, which Vlad put together. Personally, very biased, but I absolutely love it. And then we invited 10 creators along, right? So discussed with the Algorand Foundation, discussed with Pera around how we could perhaps improve sentiment within the ecosystem, given all the things that have gone on in the last few months. And this was a great way to do that. And really, who would you rather be speaking to in New York? Would you rather be speaking to number one marketplace or the foundation, or creators who live and breathe this stuff, many of them in their own time? And so it ended up just being way bigger than us, right? It ended up being essentially a small mob, which was really great. And Agash is wearing his teal jumper, teal in inverted commas. It's the closest we could find. But that was really great, because it meant that we were all sort of dressed the same, wearing the same, and there was so much buzz around the booth. And I'm a little biased, but I think we had the best booth there. And we had the socks. Everyone loves a good pair of socks. We were called out for having the best swag. We were called out for having a great experience. And for us, like, we all know this, right? If you've been interacting with blockchain and you use Algorand for the first time, it's like this light switch moment, right? Wow, this is amazing. It was so easy. And kudos to Pera for coming up with a really easy onboarding system where you could download a preloaded wallet with an algo in it, and then from within the Pera wallet, you could just shuffle an NFT, right? It was really that simple. And we went in there with some base level KPIs around, okay, what does success look like to us? And this was back in January when NFT NYC was saying, look, there's going to be 16,000 people. It's going to be great. We wanted around 650 wallets to be downloaded. And we knew at the time that was going to perhaps be a stretch. Now, there was a little less attendees this year, so there was probably about a third of that this year compared to last year. But we ended up smashing that target regardless. Nice. So kudos to everyone at RAND, everyone at Foundation, everyone at Pera, but also most importantly the creators. So on top of all the fun that we had, actually at the baseline, we smashed our targets, and it'll be interesting to revisit all those wallets in 6 months and see actually how many of them actually became active in the community. That's what I'd be interested in.
Yeah, it seems like there was obviously less buzz this NFT NYC than maybe the previous ones, just because the bear market has hit a lot, and it seems like there's a lot of people that wonder what's the NFT market really going to look like in the future, right? What are we going to it can't just be the same thing that it was last time and expect to gain more traction, gain more adoption. And also one of the things that I'd be kind of interested, I don't know how much you actually got to kind of go around NFT NYC and look at other projects, but you would have to think that the user experience of just downloading Para, being able to fund your account with a few algo, and then being actually able to go through and shuffle and do those things would be night and day compared to some chains that are very excessive in fees or just very slow. I mean, I could only imagine trying to show someone how to mint something and then you have to wait 7 minutes or a longer time for that to happen. What was your all's kind of overall, I guess, idea of like where Algorand stood in the, in comparison to the other boosts that were there?
It's sorry, Agash, you want to take this?
Yeah, I can go ahead. I think when I was on the booth, I think there were several instances where people were very surprised that they actually had the NFT. They just thought, oh okay, I'm going to get the NFT in like 10 minutes. I'm like, no, you have it. And they're like, what? And they're like, absolutely kind of mind blown that they actually have the NFT. Because I think with the UI and stuff, I think most people assume that, okay, the NFT is on the way. Like you're going to get it. We're just telling you, this NFT you're going to get. And I think it was kind of, for a lot of people, I think they were kind of mind blown at how fast Algorand is in comparison. And I think, as kind of Ross said, I think the onboarding experience that we designed alongside Para and obviously having the link for the shuffle within Para made the whole process kind of start to finish extremely smooth. And we could onboard a wallet and get someone shuffled in like 2-3 minutes, literally. And like, I think people were pretty surprising. And most of that 2-3 minutes was daily connecting them to the Wi-Fi to download Para. It wasn't actually, the actual kind of blockchain transaction. And kind of going around, I think the only kind of friction that we kind of have on Algorand is obviously the asset opt-in, which is obviously why we had to give them some algo so they could kind of opt into the transaction, which is probably the only thing which I think when explaining to people kind of understand. I think a lot of people in NFTs, in Ethereum and Solana, have had to deal with kind of mass spam. So for them, that's a wanted feature. It's not like a friction. They're like, oh, so I won't get all these random NFTs that, if I randomly try to send elsewhere or burn, it's going to drain my wallet. Obviously, some of these NFTs are smart contracts on Ethereum and Solana, and they can have unintended consequences. And I think, people, while I sometimes think of opt-in as a form of friction, for them, it was like, a benefit. Okay, I won't get, 20 of these spam NFTs every month in my wallet, because on Ethereum, less likely. On Solana, I don't know if you guys have a Solana wallet, but if you hold like one NFT, you end up with like 21 at the end of the month. 20 of them, you don't even know what they are. But I think it was, I think for people, it was kind of very good for us to see that, we're not just in a bubble thinking, Algorand is fast. It is actually far, far superior to chains like Ethereum right now.
So kind of, and I feel like I've tweeted this so many times, but like, and I've asked, people in the community, but like, what does Algorand NFTs actually have to do to kind of cross that chasm, right? And start gaining more traction. You see all these, the big ones that, obviously we even saw kind of a fall, I guess you could say, in NFT prices the past little bit. I think that's just the bear market and stuff, but like, and I'm not saying like that we have to be mooning and selling NFTs for millions of dollars, but gaining, growing the communities and getting more people to realize how easy it is. Like, what does Algorand have to do for people to actually want to use the tech? Because it seems like it's a no-brainer, yet, we kind of still are kind of slowly growing instead of seeing that fast growth that you would almost expect when a new competitor enters the space and it's faster, easier, cheaper, and all those things. What are your all's thoughts there?
Happy to give my thoughts on it. I think a lot of it is a little bit around education. So obviously, I think one thing which was, I was at ETH Denver earlier this year. I think obviously ETH Denver is a much more kind of ETH focused event, and I would say the percentage of people that had known something about Algorand was probably in the 20 to 25%. But I would say at NFT NYC, that percentage was probably double or more. But I would say maybe not everybody kind of knew how Algorand had worked, but they at least heard about it, kind of being in the NFT space. And a lot of it is a little bit around education. So I think people in the NFT ecosystem more than the general crypto ecosystem know that Algorand exists, but they don't really know much about it, anything about the kind of the projects on Algorand and things like that. So I think, us going to events like this, bringing 10 creators and making a splash actually does move the needle. Number one, I do think there are some other differences between our NFT ecosystem and others, and one of them rotates around the fact that one question which is kind of hard to answer from my perspective is like all these projects such as DGods has Dust, Bored Ape has 8 Point, kind of all these bigger blue chip projects have an LP token where people are trying to intrinsically look for an upside. And in Algorand, we don't really have a lot of those kind of LP tokens, and that is due to the fact that ecosystem smaller and setting up these kind of offshore entities is not cheap. And I think as we kind of grow and we get more volume, we'll start seeing some of the existing projects and new projects start doing some things like that, which I think does seem to be a lot of what kind of Web3 people are looking for. I mean, obviously the other side is onboarding Web2 people and things like that. That is a little bit harder in a bear market, given obviously the crypto sentiment in general is not great. But obviously, as we're kind of starting to see, as crypto sentiment is starting to pick up, and the fact that we have a kind of like a meme coin season going on right now kind of shows us that people are willing to take a little bit more risk, and I think that places us in kind of a good stead. And usually NFT markets usually boom after people essentially make money in inverted commas. So obviously the fact there is a meme coin rush, some people will win, some people will lose, and hopefully some of the people that will win would want to kind of invest into NFT projects and buy NFTs and things like that. And I think people who do fall into that category are probably much more likely to look at other chains to kind of go to, and we are thinking about Web2 and Web3 strategies that we can also employ to educate and put our kind of Algorand, RAND, the creators on Algorand kind of out there.
Yeah, for sure. Ross, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to add to that, give a quick shout out to Algo House, right? So Agash hit the nail on the head, right? There's that hashtag that we have, Algorand has NFTs. It's just telling people that Algorand has NFTs, right? So why did we go to NFT NYC, right? Why did we take the time, spend the effort, et cetera, et cetera? Is because we wanted to let people know that Algorand has NFTs, and it made a hell of a lot of sense to do that alongside the foundation and Parrot, right? And so that was the main activation in that respect. And then Algorand did a really good job with Algo House, again, just educating. They had their own PR team, bringing people in, and it's just going to these events and letting people know that we exist and that we're human, and et cetera, et cetera. So for me, yeah, it's a long process, but it's definitely worth it.
Now, I've got a little bit of a side quest question, but I know Distributed Finance, the parent company that owns RAND Gallery, Zest, and NFT Explorer, I know they're not based in the United States, but is there any concern about ongoing U.S. regulation and application of securities law? I know that NFTs in some aspect are just seen as artwork and collectibles, but I know there's some push to make the argument that they are also investment contracts to some degree. Is there any concern there on RAND's end about upcoming securities law applications?
Yeah, look, the reality is it's something we closely follow, right? It's not something that we can have too much in a say in at this stage. And I'll just correct you because operationally we are based in the US. So
okay.
RAND Gallery LLC is based in the US. So it's something that we have to look at closely and just follow what the markets are what's saying on a macro level. I don't have all the answers, but it is something we monitor. Obviously, we have an in-house general counsel, Helen, who was actually at NFT NYC with us.
Fantastic.
And a number of lawyers all over the place as well to help us along the way.
It's a mess, honestly. It's got to be one of the biggest headaches of the side of the business that you guys deal with.
Yeah, for sure. I think the main issue is obviously, as most kind of crypto businesses are kind of crying for, is just clarity. As in, if there are a set of rules that we have to follow, we're more than happy to play within those rules, saying, you have to do X, Y, Z. But I think the main issue right now is everything's a little bit vague and gray, where we have to we take the best practices, which we obviously have our onboarding policy, our terms, our privacy policy, and kind of all those things, which we think are the best practices for what we're doing. But obviously, any guidance, we're happy to kind of follow and work within. But obviously, I think the main issue that we see with a lot of crypto businesses, including billion-dollar businesses like Coinbase, are still struggling with what the regulatory certainty and what the rules are, because it's unclear. And obviously, we saw Gary Gensler in the getting a bit.
According to Gary, it's pretty clear, though. I mean, that was, I don't know anybody that thinks the same way as he does, but
we've always erred on the side of caution, right? And always set ourselves up for scalability and success in the future. So it's all about putting in the right processes now, so that when scale does happen, we're ready for it.
Yeah, and it almost seems,
and then adapting as we go.
Yeah, I feel like it almost seems like the Algorand ecosystem, at least from what I've seen from some of the gaming things that have been created and even some of the marketplaces and stuff, like there really isn't a lot of that LP token farming and a lot of people just gaming the system, within the things that are launched on Algorand, more like you see, I would say, outside the ecosystem, right? A lot of these places they launch a token, and that token ends up causing all the hype about the project, because then people are either airdropped it or they're able to go farm it and they're buying it. And then you got millionaires being made off of, a token that was just fabricated out of nothing, right? And I feel like when you look at Algorand's ecosystem, they're not to say that they're not, tokens and utility tokens created, but a lot of those don't have intrinsic value, right? They're not attached to the algo where they could trade and do that kind of stuff. And so maybe that's a good thing, right? With regulation and stuff coming down, maybe that'll position Algorand for a better spot. But it is one of the things I have noticed when looking at a lot of projects, at least in the NFT, utility token type space. But obviously NFT NYC looked like a lot of fun. Obviously, I wish I could go. I mean, live in Florida, but it was amazing too. I just want to say thank you guys for putting that all together and getting, the amount of, creators in the Algorand space up there. I think it looked fantastic from the pictures, and it looked like y'all really did have, a great showing, and we're able to show a lot of people, the power of Algorand and getting that, getting the word going more.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be said. Dylan likes to use the word vibes on investment, right? And there is a lot that can be said about that. Just sort of lifting the spirits for the community, and hopefully we did a good enough job sort of disseminating that across the ecosystem.
Oh, for sure. It definitely seemed that. So let's, I feel like we have quite a few people here in the chat. So obviously make sure you're smashing that like button, sharing this out there to get more people in. But you guys actually have a pretty big 2023 still to go. You got a lot of stuff on the roadmap, many things ahead to launch. What's the next biggest thing that RAND Gallery is going to be launching that you guys want to talk about?
Agash,
Yeah, I can take this. So the biggest thing that we'll be launching by the end of May would be RAND Shuffle. So obviously RAND Gallery right now has something called Instant Shuffle, which has kind of, existed for quite a long time. RAND Gallery obviously originally did drops on their own website before they transitioned over to Instant Shuffle, where it become non-curated. Obviously, originally RAND Gallery only did curated drops, and we're going to go down the route of obviously having non-curated drops on Instant Shuffle, which will be now called RAND Shuffle. And obviously, it'll be kind of the new redesign. So I guess it will give people the first insight into how the new RAND Gallery will look, and the look and the feel, the colors, the branding, the animations, and obviously the confetti, which I think a lot of people have requested does not go. But yeah, that'll be launching in the next 4 weeks. It's been a long time coming. Obviously for us, whatever we do, we want to do it right. We don't want to half-ass things, rush things, and get them out before they're ready, or before we've had a lot of time to test it. And right now the next 4 weeks is primarily just us testing it. Like, it's pretty much ready to go, but before I launch anything, I just want to make sure it's fully tested from a security, user experience, mobile, desktop, kind of all that stuff. So when we do launch it, it's not like we launch it and then oh no, we need to go fix it now. It's like we launch it and then it works, and it's going to be pretty cool. And I would say it's the UI UX of the platform. Like, props to our design team, like Sue and Seamus, who've done like an amazing job with the animations, design, thinking about the user experience, the messaging, the emojis, kind of everything that we kind of have going into it. But yeah, I'm really excited for kind of everyone to see it, and it's been a lot of work for like the last few months, kind of going into it.
So what's the biggest difference between the Instant Shuffle and the RAND Shuffle from like a user experience, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. I guess when we talk about user, there is obviously two different users. The primary user who creates a shuffle is a creator. And right now, it's a shuffle is a little bit tedious to create a shuffle with, and also a lot of the information that happens on the shuffle is very opaque and vague. So one of the biggest changes is creating a shuffle will be a lot easier. We'll have dynamic allow lists. You can do a lot more different things, such as edit your images, edit your description. All that stuff was kind of uneditable right now from the creator side, where they kind of have to message us and we'll kind of go into the back end. And obviously, we do all those changes for them on our behalf. But now, kind of everything except the price. We obviously don't want people to start scamming people by, editing the price, but everything except the price can be changed by the creator. Edit the allow list, remove people. You also have kind of like a block list. So if the creator doesn't want certain wallets that are on the white list to shuffle the public list, they can, deny certain wallets from shuffling and kind of all that stuff, which gives a lot of power to the creator, as well as a full dashboard. So they can kind of see their revenue, who shuffled the most NFTs, how many NFTs were shuffled over time, and kind of give them a better understanding of how the shuffle is performing, as well as kind of an indication of, how much revenue have they made, who are their top wallets, and if they want to do things like bounties or discounts or, whatever they want to do. But right now, all of that's kind of very manual. They have to go to NFT Explorer and kind of figure out kind of who bought what and things like that. But we're kind of giving them a much cleaner UI to kind of manage their whole shuffle experience from creation to end. And the other thing is obviously things like scheduling shuffles, kind of all these features that you would kind of expect that Instant Shuffle currently just doesn't have. And on the user side, it's going to be primarily UI UX change. Functionally, it's going to be very similar. Obviously, right now, shuffling an NFT is kind of, you choose how many NFTs you want to shuffle and you pay. The primary difference is on the user side will be a much more better UI UX preview of the NFTs that you can shuffle. So obviously, right now we just say it's a shuffle, but there'll be like kind of a preview section so you can see some of the NFTs in the shuffle, see a little bit more information about how the shuffle is performing, and kind of enable you to shuffle. So on the user end, it'll be very similar, but the main difference on the user end will be a much better mobile experience. Instant Shuffle right now is okay on mobile, both primarily built for the desktop, but the new Instant Shuffle will be, RAND Shuffle will be perfect on desktop and mobile.
Nice. Obviously, we cannot get rid of the confetti. I literally made a meme. Like, if I could go find it quick, I would. But that's one of my favorite things about RAND is the little confetti after you buy it. It's so cool. One, I would just ask: is there any, when you guys do roll this out, is there any projects that you guys are working with that are going to actually be launching, or are you guys rolling out anything with it, or is it just going to kind of be, you update the website and then obviously people just come in and use it, or you guys have some alpha of maybe some things that are launching with the shuffle and all that stuff?
Obviously, as we get closer and closer to launch, we'll find a few kind of key projects that we want to launch with. So to make sure, when we launch a new shuffle, there will be shuffles live for them to launch. And one or two people have actually already reached out to me who are delaying the shuffle a little bit so they can launch on the new shuffle, and those would be kind of like our launch partners. And I've kind of told them, it'll be done by the end of May, and they're planning on launching start of May. So they're like, we're happy to wait a few weeks and launch on the new shuffle. So there will be kind of a few different creators who are kind of launching on the new shuffle.
Nice.
Well, what I will say is the new RAND shuffle is sort of step one in the consolidation of everything. So one of the things that will be part of the new shuffle is bringing all these creator tools that we have into RAND shuffle as well. And I know you like the confetti. There's some things planned as well around making that experience a little bit more joyful for collectors as well. We've got some nice little Easter eggs for you.
Nice. So let's hope that starts to attract a lot of people who enjoy using other. I've actually only used OpenSea like once, and I've only browsed stuff like Magic Eden. So I've obviously been very heavily into Algorand NFTs. So obviously excited to see the experience improve, and hopefully that does start to catch the eyes of some of these other bigger people out here who are collecting NFTs. and want to use RAND. Obviously, I know that there's been a lot of people who say that, you know, RAND's kind of, or not RAND, but Algorand NFTs marketplaces have been kind of behind some of these other places in their functionalities and the things you can do. So obviously, seeing you guys update and upgrade to, you know, better improve a lot of this is hopefully going to bring in more of that traction. And you guys also have your own NFT series that just launched. Do you guys want to say a little bit about that and what the maybe utility or what those are for? Obviously, they look really cool, and I know that they were given out to a lot of the people in NFT NYC who you know, went through your all's process. But tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, I mean, look, just going back to a point there, the new RAND Shuffle, we look at it, it's not just a 10x improvement, it's more like a 100x improvement, right? So if you do look at OpenSea or Magic Eden, which we're big fans of, it's just about putting us in line with that. And there's going to be a lot more functionality in due course as we update RAND Gallery as well. Yeah, as for the NFT collection, just huge shout out to Vlad. If he's listening, you know, he put a lot of time and effort into that, and that was, you know, that was born out of the competition we did. If you remember, we had a competition for a mascot all those months ago, and we had what was it, 25 creators that submitted something, and then the community voted on Randy, and it was just an opportunity to take Randy to the next level and bring some friends, and then okay, we're going with Algorand, we're going with Pera. How can we incorporate all of that? So you've got your P's, you've got your A's, you've got your R's. And for me, what's really exciting is that all of those designs are going to be used quite prominently across all the different platforms moving forward, right? So there's so many different directions that we can take this in. And yes, we did launch this for NFT NYC. Again, the whole point of that was to show that Algorand has NFTs. Here's your NFT. And I think one of the great things about that experience was, okay, you've got your NFT in your Pera wallet, and then you could go to that sort of 3D mode, and that would be the last thing that I would show them on here's your NFT, and you'd flick it around, and it would do a lot of things. And that little design feature really caught people's eye. Yeah, in terms of future utility, it's not something that we can share just now, but it's something that's in the works.
Nice. And one thing you kind of mentioned there, and I didn't know if we even really talked about it, but I do want to give you a chance to kind of, you know, maybe explain where you think RAND is going to have a competitive edge against some of the bigger marketplaces that are out there, you know, like OpenSea and Magic Eden and stuff like that. Why do you think people will choose RAND Gallery over things like that in the future?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, obviously, we're on Algorand, right? So if you want an Algorand NFT, there's a few marketplaces you can choose from, and we hope that you can choose us. One of the differentiators that we have at the moment is that, you know, we do have the whole NFT vertical stack. You know, we are improving each bit as we go, but we have the minting, we have the primary sales platform, which will take a huge boost next month. We're improving RAND Gallery, and then we have the NFTX now as well. So it's about, okay, once we've got all of these consolidated into a platform which makes sense, what can we do with it? Like, how can we support folks who want to launch an NFT on Algorand? The way I see it, and it's something I mentioned at NFT NYC, is if you're a project, whether you're a business or a creator, and you want to launch an NFT on Algorand, ideally you shouldn't have to build anything yourself. Like, how can we work with you so you can come to us and you can concentrate on what you do best, which is running your business and running your project and thinking about all the great things that your NFT can do. We'll do the legwork from a technical perspective. So what does that look like? You know, we're not quite there yet, but it's something that we're moving towards.
That's awesome. And it kind of leads me into one of my questions, that is, you know, why did RAND Gallery rebrand? So before it was just spelled RAND, R-A-N-D, and now it's R with the and symbol, which, you know, leads me to believe, of course, there's going to be more to RAND than was before. But I'll let you explain what the rebrand is all about and where RAND Gallery is going to go.
Yeah, I can take that one, and maybe Agash, you can tag on to the end. So yeah, well, firstly, we hope you like the rebrand, but I think there was a really good case in point in the sort of picture that you put up for this particular show today. You had sort of Agash as CEO of Zest and RAND Gallery, Ross as distributed finance group. It's all a little bit confusing right now. So the key for us is, how do we consolidate all of this, right? So, you know, RAND Gallery was a fantastic name, But right now we've got all these disparate platforms. We've got Instant Shuffle, we've got Zest, we've got NFTX, we've got RAND Gallery. The key for us is just to bring that all under the RAND moniker. And really, this is a brand that is great for the position we're in right now, which is a growing startup, but is also a brand that we can carry towards a business that's worth 500 million, 1 billion plus, right? So it's with us for the long haul. We've obviously been slowly sort of dropping the gallery to our name, and really we just want to be known as RAND moving forward, but we'll be known as RAND Shuffle, RAND Analytics, RAND DAOs, RAND Gallery, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot more that we can do with this brand moving forward. And really, we're just very much at the beginning of that. What I will say is shout out to Sui and Seamus, so our designers who came up with the name, which we thought was quite clever, right? So we joke we put the RAND and Algorand, but really it's a business that we can now grow and a brand that we can now grow as Algorand grows, right? We fundamentally believe in Algorand. We're here. We're always going to be here, and we're excited to see its success and grow its success.
One thing that I kind of wonder just about Algorand NFT marketplaces, and I'm sure a lot of this has to do with just, the future becoming more interoperable. But obviously I feel like something that would benefit in, collections growing and reaching other chains and bringing liquidity in is the ability to not buy only in algo, right? But to actually buy in ETH or in Sol or, Matic or whatever chain you're on, right? Because I look at, that's one thing that keeps me from wanting to buy a lot of stuff I see on OpenSea. Like the guy came out with that hilarious song with Gary Gensler and Algorand. I mean, and he had it, as a bid and an NFT on OpenSea, but I was like, that means I'm gonna have to, buy ETH and then send it over there. And I just hate dealing with all the gas fees and having to, bid. And I've never even bid on an ETH NFT, so I didn't know what that would look like. But how do we, how does Algorand attract more options for people being able to buy that are not just algo?
Yeah, what I can say is obviously with the new RAND Gallery, cross-chain payments and card payments and all those fun things are coming to obviously make this idea of obviously onboarding people from other chains, such as, if you're an Ethereum collector, you want to buy something on Algorand, you can just kind of buy with the ETH and not have to worry about going to an exchange and buying all of this. So I think, ideally would like to support Ethereum, Solana, ADA, and then card payments. We're in the process of actually choosing a few different providers that can provide us that. And obviously, kind of going through those. And obviously, recently, to kind of also help that, we also added in the Para on-ramp, which is obviously a service provided by Para, which allows you to kind of put in your country how much algo or algo USDC or algo USDT that you want to buy, and essentially kind of give you the best rate kind of possible. So you can kind of see, if you want to buy $100 and I'm based in the US, you might want to use MoonPay. And we integrated that into both RAND Gallery as well as our current Instant Shuffle. And this was done obviously for Paris Blockchain Week because we had an initiative kind of going on then. We thought it'd be kind of very easy to integrate that, and obviously it gives the end user the best price possible.
Yes. And so help me understand that a little bit. So does that mean that, like, say you have a MetaMask wallet that you'd actually be able to connect to RAND Gallery, or are you think, okay, sweet. I mean, that's kind of what I was needing, like excited to hear and wanting to hear, because obviously I feel like that's going to, there are so many, I feel like influencers that I see on Twitter as well that are kind of, they're big into other ecosystems and they know that Algorand has NFTs, but I truly feel the reason why they don't really jump into them and try to help maybe build them up is because they know most people are not going to want to, bridge all their assets. They're just going to want to buy and connect their MetaMask and buy and hold it in their wallet that they prefer, not having to create a whole new thing. And so that's really exciting to hear that you guys are going to have that feature on.
Yeah, exactly. I think one thing which John Woods is also working on for Q3 is for deeper MetaMask integration into Algorand. So again, for the MetaMask users out there, you'll know that you can use a MetaMask on Ethereum, Polygon, AVAX, any EVM chain, and Algorand kind of will be added there Q3. I think they're in the middle of the order, as kind of John has posted on Twitter. But obviously, as soon as that is kind of nearing ready to be live, we'll obviously kind of work to integrate that so that people can kind of hold those NFTs in MetaMask. Whereas what I was describing earlier is people will be able to pay via MetaMask, then obviously have to hold their NFTs within the Algorand wallet. But with the kind of the Algorand MetaMask integration, MetaMask will become a wallet kind of on Algorand. I think, I'm personally quite a big fan of MetaMask and I've used it for years. So I'm also kind of personally excited to kind of see that coming through.
Yeah, I think I'll just finish off by saying, a lot of the changes that we're making right now is to simplify the lives of creators, and we've always said we're creator-led, and one of the ways of being creator-led is actually helping them with their collectors, right? So we've got, I think, 1,000 creators, or I think nearing 2,000 collections across NFTX and RAND Gallery. So how can we help creators get the word out there, and how can we make it easier for the collectors to find them and then interact with them? So yeah, that's all coming, and it's something we're currently well underway on.
Now, something else that I kind of have a question about, and either of you can kind of answer this. I feel like it's also a point in which I feel like, in an interoperable and more interoperable future for NFTs is, say I see a lot of people talk about Sappy Seals, right? I mean, I follow tons of them. Prim, obviously, he's on everybody's Twitter. I'm sure we all know Prim. But it's always been interesting that, if I want to buy that, I got to go to OpenSea or I guess one of those marketplaces. Do you guys see a future where, NFTs are so interoperable where they could be listed on, Algorand, like a Sappy Seal could have it be on RAND or something like that? Or is that is there a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that would make that too hard, I guess?
Yeah, I think at the base level, obviously, there are a lot of bridges coming. One of the bridges kind of specific to Algorand is the London bridge that Applied Blockchain is working on. I think a week or two ago, they released an update saying they're aiming for the end of Q2, which would be June, which is coming. So technically, you would be able to bridge over your Sappy Seal and kind of list it on RAND. But I think the issue with some of those NFTs, it kind of goes back to the utility. So obviously, Sappy Seals have the staking platform on ETH. So I'd say it would probably be, much more applicable to things which are more focused on art versus utility. Whereas I think when you try and cross-chain things with utility, if you don't also bridge over the utility functionality, it becomes a little bit complicated. So I think with something like Sappy Seals, because they have their whole Pixelverse, their staking, kind of all this other stuff over there, it becomes a little bit more complicated. But with something where there isn't too much intrinsic utility, or the utility can be programmed to be still available kind of cross-chain, then I would say it's fairly possible. And I think DGods and Utes have done a fairly good example of this, where they're bridged over from Solana to Ethereum, and some of their existing functionality also exists on Solana as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks for answering that.
I've got I suppose one last question about RAND Gallery. It's not really about RAND Gallery, but I believe the collection launched on RAND Gallery. So I want to get you guys' take on, or really opinions. I don't know if you guys want to do that, but your opinions on the next gen physical digital shoe collection. And then I want to know, what do you think the community kind of has to do, or the ecosystem has to do, to bring in more stars that want to use the Algorand platforms, the NFT platforms like RAND Gallery, that kind of create a level of, I don't want to say hype, but enthusiasm that really wasn't there for like weeks leading up to that event. And then the next gen came along, and there was a lot more hype in the ecosystem again. What do we need to do to get that to be like more regular, I suppose?
I can take that, and then Agash, you can tag on at the end. So look, firstly, I want to congratulate Shuffle. So we're often seen as competitors, but really we should be seen as collaborators, right? So we've all got to play our part in growing the ecosystem, right? So how can we all grow the ecosystem together? So it's great if Shuffle can onboard a next gen, because that was a potentially a ginormous project, right? Obviously it didn't go to plan, but it's great that Shuffle's doing its part in bringing new creators on board, new collectors on board, etc., etc. And really, as Algorand builders, we constantly looking at, okay, well, how can we expand the ecosystem? So that there's a number of things that we're working on as well that should benefit the whole ecosystem. Because again, going back to why did we go to NFT NYC? Well, it's to create extra wallets, right? So if Shuffle did launch this and next gen did sell out, that's 10,000 plus new wallets created potentially. That's huge for the ecosystem, right? Because again, if you look at the analogy of a mall, the wallet gives you access and then you may go shop around. So we're hugely supportive of any project that brings on a big name like that. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go to plan this time around.
Yeah, totally fair enough. Fair enough. Unless David has any more questions about RAND Gallery, I'd actually like to move a little bit on to Zest Capital, because this is something that I feel like people know a lot less about compared to RAND. So I'd love to get a couple questions answered. So ultimately, I know that Zest Capital is working with Borderless Capital to build out their Borderless DAO. And I believe the last tweet about it from Zest was sometime in February. So I'd love to know, I guess, three-pronged question is, what is Zest Capital's role in the Borderless DAO, in the creation of it? And are there any updates on that DAO? And I suppose I'll ask the follow-up question after that.
Yeah, all good questions. So I guess the first bit of alpha that I can share with you, I kind of mentioned it at the beginning, is that Zest Capital will sort of fall under the RAND moniker. So again, to make a little bit more sense to all of the platforms that we have. So very soon it will be called RAND DAOs, and it will sort of start to make sense from that perspective. Historically, look, still are an investment DAO platform. So the key for us is to be that service provider that makes it very easy for someone to set up an investment DAO. So if you ever tried to set up an investment DAO, it's an extremely complex thing to do from a bunch of different angles, right? There's the commercial angle, there's the technical angle, and then there's the regulatory angle. Our job is just to make it really, really easy for you to do that, right? So we sit underneath. If you think a DAO is a pretty simple concept to understand, you make proposals, you vote on those proposals, and you go and execute those proposals. And we've created this platform, everything built on Algorand, where voting proposals on chain, and we just make it really, really easy to set something up. So with Borderless DAO, look, the reality is the appetite for investment DAOs at the moment is probably not where it was a year ago. But actually, if you look at the future of investment DAOs, if you think about the future of blockchain, there's a huge amount of potential and a huge amount of growth to happen, certainly into the next bull run, but even beyond that. So if you think about a 5 to 10 year trajectory, investment DAOs are going to become the norm. So for us, we're just preparing ourselves and gearing ourselves up for that growth, and really Borderless DAOs looking at, okay, when is the right time to launch, essentially, similar with some of the other DAOs that we've built.
That's good to hear. If you ever come across any other updates along the Borderless DAO, we're happy to hear about them. But I actually want to ask, are there any other, you just said the appetite's pretty low in this current environment, so maybe the answer might be no to this, but are there any other notable, people or companies or DAOs that are trying to create their own investment DAOs using your platform currently?
So right now, again, it just looks at how we're positioned ourselves. So if you look at the broader ecosystem, you've got a platform like Syndicate, which I think has done a pretty good job at the sort of mass market grassroots level. We always looked at it a little bit differently. So essentially, if you're more of like an enterprise level DAO, so if you're looking to launch something that's maybe sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 million plus, where do you go for that? And then we offer that sort of white glove solution for you. Having said that, there are sort of a number of changes that we're sort of implementing, which will go live actually as early as next month in terms of RAND DAOs and how we're positioning DAOs to be a bit more NFT centric. So there's a few changes happening, because for us, if you look at, okay, well, we own RAND Gallery, that's the primary platform right now. NFTX is a wonderful platform. The view that we have is, how can we bring some of those analytics into RAND Gallery itself, and then in the future, how can we bring DAOs, which is a core competence of the team, more into NFTs, and then also looking at, okay, what does NFT look like, and how can we bring that to RAND Gallery? So there's a lot internally that's going on, and some of that, you're actually going to start seeing sooner rather than later, right? So the initial thing that we did was just rebrand and introduce the new RAND, the new moniker to the ecosystem, and then the next step is bringing all these platforms together, and then we're going to supersize everything, right? So there's a lot to come, and we're really excited.
Nice. One last thing, or I mean, obviously that'll be the last question, but one question as well that you kind of mentioned at the very beginning when you guys went to NFT NYC that there was a large expectation of how many people would come, and then obviously it wasn't quite that amount of people, and we've kind of seen this whole I feel like a story arc that I'm kind of hearing is that gaming NFTs are going to be the next big thing to make a bull run in the coming whenever that happens, if it's next year, 2 years, who knows when. And that these profile picture NFTs are not going to see new all-time highs, and we're going to kind of see a transition. What do you guys see for the NFT scene over the next 5 years? Do you see this profile picture and some of this just artwork NFTs kind of dying out and people just chasing this hype, or do you see more value that can still be kind of extrapolated from the current market that's still building kind of in this bear market? What are your all's thoughts there?
Yeah, kind of happy to kind of answer that first and let Ross kind of provide his opinion as well. But I think obviously, I think what we see as NFTs, I think when we kind of go into the next bull run, it will all be about utility and real world use cases. Are kind of what obviously you can still have a profile picture like NFT that has utility, kind of like Bored Ape, historically has been a PFP NFT, but now it's going to be in a game. It can be used to stake your ape coin. It can be used for, a plethora of different things over time. So I think what we will see is that the NFT will need to have utility, and that is kind of, there needs to be something where you need the NFT to do it. And that's what kind of will bring in more users. And I think one of the things that is a good example is something like NFT ticketing. Like to go to various concerts, I've downloaded loads of different apps, loads of different QR codes, and kind of all these like weird and wonderful things because I want to go to the concert. So if I paid $50, $100 to go, I'm going to jump through a few hoops to get the Ticketmaster app on my phone, get the QR code, do the KYC, or put my card deals on the app, or whatever I need to do. And I think that's what we'll see. Like gaming is another good example. If all your friends are playing, a game like Apex, you want to play Apex as well. You're going to go download Apex, go through the steps to play, and if that requires you to set up a wallet, buy $10 of algo and fractal monster to kind of get going, you'll go ahead and do that, right? I think that's kind of what we'll see over time, is things with utility as well as things with kind of real world overlaps will kind of be the things that people are looking for, and they can still be PFP NFTs that give you access to those. I don't think those are out of the question, but it's more about I think just doing art and then expecting loads of people to come buy it is going to become a little bit more difficult over time. But obviously you can do the art and apply the utility over time, which is again what Yuga Labs have been doing and kind of been very good at proving kind of the use case over time. And I know Frank at DGods has a lot of good ideas that he started teasing over the last few weeks around kind of what they want to do with their collection and trying to make that the primary use case for them bridging over to ETH and Polygon respectively for youths as well.
One thing you said that I've often thought, this is like whatever marketplace wins this or gets this is going to be one of the biggest NFT marketplaces out there, and this is ticketing, right? Like, is that one? What does that look like for the next coming years? For someone, because I know when concerts and when a lot of things drop, right? People will go and buy the tickets right at drop, and then they'll immediately list them on StubHub, Vivid Seats for higher than they bought. Obviously, it's the same thing we do a lot of times with profile picture NFTs. But what does it look like if for an existing marketplace like RAND, like an OpenSea, what friction is there to try to create that stuff? Because I would assume Vivid Seats, a lot of those people would lobby to stop any type of, NFT markets being able to do that, because obviously that's going to cut into their profit and things like that. But what does that actually look like, in the coming years for people being able to buy their tickets to a real life event and then list it on something like RAND and be paid in algo and stuff like that for it?
Yeah, I think a lot of this kind of goes down to the more complicated idea to me. Again, I think Ross, one thing to mention is Ross has had a very big career experience in ticketing, so I let him tag on. But I think one thing which I think from a kind of very much a Web3 hat is royalties. So obviously, while these events and these tickets are being sold more on StubHub, Vivid Seats, etc., the actual end artist or venue or original issuer doesn't really see any benefit from that. For them, they sold the ticket for the mint price, let's call it, in the NFT world, and X number of people are going to attend regardless of how many secondary sales they are, and they don't see any increased revenue. Neither does the artist. They get paid to do their set, and that's it. And obviously, I think the idea of kind of moving this more towards the NFT angles, like looking at things like TravelX. I think TravelX, obviously, a great example of obviously having a secondary marketplace where there are royalties and the airlines, the issuers can actually make some money, and that way they can support it. They'll be like, you know what, I would rather kind of move everything to digital where it can't be on StubHub and Vivid Seats and it's on RAND. And obviously on RAND, I'll get my 5% royalties every single time it's sold. So I get some economic benefit from that. But I'll hand over to Ross to kind of give his viewpoint. Like I said, he has quite a lot of experience with ticketing.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I agree with everything you said. I'll probably just take a few steps back, right? So look, the vision that we have is like, why have we gone so deep into NFTs? Is that, we think that everyone's going to have an NFT in their pocket, right? What that looks like is still anyone's guess. So if that's the vision, then the mission for us is, okay, well, how can we support that, right? How can we make sure, and that's something I mentioned before, if you're interested in launching an NFT project on Algorand, how can we make it easy, right? So if you think about Algorand just works, how do we make NFTs just work? So that's sort of the number one, and we're here to support. Look, I think personally that art, PFPs, etc., they have their place, and they're here to stay. I think that will evolve. One of the great things about Algorand is it's a super versatile blockchain, right? You've seen, for example, Fums. Fums is really fun with what they've created, and we've got a bunch of other artists that have been very creative in the way that they use Algorand and some of its unique features. But having said that, there is a huge amount of opportunity around music, around gaming, around ticketing, as we've been discussing, right? So within ticketing itself, I spent 4.5 years in ticketing, right? So I helped launch a business within ticketing a few years ago now, probably about 10 years ago now. But over the course of 4.5 years, we raised like 40 mil, grew the team to 150. We expanded all over the US. The challenge within ticketing is AEG and Live Nation basically own everything, right? So they have the sort of greedy mitts in every single channel, and that's a really, really, really hard monopoly or duopoly, whatever you want to call it, to break down. And a lot of these folks, the way the music industry works, but like the film industry at the very basic level, you've got, okay, it's a song and then it's a film, right? But actually, you've got these entrenched incumbents who have so much power over what goes on and so much power over the artists, et cetera, et cetera. It's really hard to break free from that. And one of the things we're seeing with music is that actually you don't no longer need all these men in the middle, right? The whole power of blockchain is it's just, okay, you've got your artist, you've got the person who listens to it, and you can support each other via the use of a decentralized network. Now, with ticketing itself, what I think is one of the main benefits, I think, is the secondary market, right? So, there's been a long storied career of folks like Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift coming out and going, screw you. You've got all these scalpers that are buying tickets for $100 and then immediately reselling them for $1,000 because it's a supply and demand thing. And one of the great applications of blockchain to me is that you can actually say, no, we don't want that. Here's your ticket. And then you can put some sort of parameters around that ticket. So I think there's a huge opportunity. People shouldn't go into it lightly, though. I guess it's one of those things that I spent a long time in. I think blockchain is a perfect application for it, and whoever cracks it will smash it. But there's certainly some challenges along the way.
Yeah, I would agree. I knew at the old apartment complex I used to live at, I actually knew a guy who his main business, like his main income was flipping, concert tickets, any type of ticket. He would just buy up, got tons of them, and then spend the next time leading up to the event actually reselling them, getting them sold, and making that profit. And so that's just one massive utility that I feel like is coming for NFTs, and is going to be a very lucrative way, because obviously if you look at something like Algorand, it's going to be a very quick and fast way to move and make those transactions go smoothly, and be on the blockchain. So it'd be to where it's authentic, you can trust who you're buying it from, because there's also that whole aspect of sometimes you go on these Vivid Seats. I mean, my father-in-law, he bought tickets for I think it was like Elton John concert, right? And he bought them for his wife and family, and ended up two of them he bought, because he bought them from separate websites, two of them were not real. And so you had to go through the whole thing there of not really knowing that what you're buying is actually the asset you're going to get and give you access. So I think that, seeing that incorporated into, some of the current NFT marketplaces that are growing, I think that's going to be huge for whichever marketplace can actually achieve that. Obviously, I don't know if it'll end up being something where its own thing gets built and a brand like Vivid Seats creates their own, type of NFT marketplace or something like that. But I still think it's an industry that's coming quick.
Yeah, I think both will happen, right? So there will be attempts at launching your own blockchain solution, and there'll be startups that launch and perhaps will get bought out. But it goes back to why did we rebrand to RAND? Because guess what? We can have RAND music, we can have RAND tickets. We can do so much with this brand as we grow and as Algorand grows. There's so many different potentials that we can take this, and so we're just super excited about that.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I think the rebrand was a great idea. I love it. It looks like the chat loves it. We are closing up at the end of the hour. I do have a bunch more questions, so we're going to have you guys back on the show sometime in the future for more updates. But I want to give you both the floor, so that way you can let the audience know, anything else you guys are working on that you want to make sure that they know before we close out today, or just where they can go to stay updated and follow along and learn more as you go.
Yeah, I'll take that. Look, it's the way I close out most of these things is if you want to talk about NFTs or just anything in general, my Calendly is on my Twitter, right? So if you're listening to this right now and you're NFT curious or you want to find out more about RAND or our future plans, just book a slot in my Calendly. I'm always available and happy to chat.
Awesome. You're a brave man putting that up there, honestly. I feel like it's only a matter of time before it gets filled up with schedules that might not be that fruitful.
Yeah, and on my end, obviously, you guys can reach me on Twitter, agash.algo. Also, obviously, if you guys are planning on launching a NFT collection and you want to shuffle in the next 4-6 weeks or so, please do reach out, and obviously we can kind of get you onboarded onto the new RAND shuffle and kind of be one of the launch shuffles. So yeah, feel free to reach out to either the RAND Twitter page, Intercom on randgallery.com, or you can directly message me on Twitter as well, or jump in the RAND Discord. You can.
Yeah, and this is obviously for the viewers of our show. We have a slim ray of sunlight of our artist for our NFT collection that we've been wanting to launch. So we're starting to get in some of that. So maybe the next block will be one of those first shuffles on your all's new platform. So really looking forward to everything that comes with RAND. And obviously, thank you guys for coming on the show. Everybody, go check them out, RAND Gallery, and follow them on Twitter, all their socials and whatnot. And we are going to see Algorand NFTs blow up in the coming year from all the hard work that these guys and the community of artists and collectors are building. So super excited. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. All those links are down in the description below. So for RAND, all their Twitter pages and whatnot, you can find them in the description. And if you haven't done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're a new viewer. And thank you very much to our guests for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us, and look forward to next time.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, thanks both. Bye for now.